was able to spend his final days with the Queen at Windsor Castle, the place where his own mother had been born in 1885.
Prince Philip earned the affection of generations here in the United Kingdom, across the Commonwealth and around the world. He was the longest serving consort in history, one of the last surviving people in this country to have served in the Second World War. We remember the Duke for all of this, and above all, for his steadfast support for Her Majesty the Queen. Not just as her consort, by her side every day of her reign, but as her husband, her strength and stay of more than 70 years. And it is to Her Majesty and her family that our nation's thoughts must turn today.
At Downing Street, as elsewhere in the country, official flags will now fly at half-mast until the morning after Prince Philip's funeral, the arrangements for which have been significantly revised because of the pandemic. And so too has the advice to the public. Many people had instinctively been moved to lay flowers, but in line with COVID restrictions, they've been urged not to, and also not to congregate at any of the royal residences.
Remembering what he's given to the country, to the world, it's wonderful.
It's a person that's been around for all of my life, and I'm really sad.
And because he has been part of national life for so long, for more than 7 decades, the flowers did keep coming, despite the official advice. This was Windsor Castle this afternoon.
My heart just breaks for the Queen and the family because she lost her husband, and such a stability in the country, I think, for the royal family. So, yeah, just deeply sad.
And in the capitals of the United Kingdom, the moment was being marked. At Piccadilly Circus in central London, and in Edinburgh at the Palace of Holyrood House, the same announcement was posted outside.
He lived a life of public service and deep devotion to the Queen. He had a close association, of course, with Scotland. He went to school in Scotland. I know that he enjoyed all of the time he spent at Balmoral.
The Duke of Edinburgh will be sorely missed by the many Welsh organisations that he supported as patron or president over so many decades of service.
It is with deep sadness that I've learned of the death of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. It is a sadness that I know will be shared by countless others in Northern Ireland and right across the world.
From now until the day of the funeral, the Duke of Edinburgh's body will lie in rest at Windsor Castle. He never wanted a state funeral, despite the duty he'd given to his country and to the Queen. She now has the difficult task of signing off the amended funeral plans, which will have to take place behind the castle walls without the public in attendance. Windsor was where the couple spent their 73rd and final wedding anniversary last year. From their marriage at Westminster Abbey through the many years of her reign, the Duke of Edinburgh has been at Queen's side through the happy times and the challenging ones. He's been her advisor, her confidant, her debater, her rock, her husband. She will now be a widowed monarch. She will do the job alone. At the place where they were married, Westminster Abbey, the tenor bell started to toll at 6 o'clock this evening. It will toll every minute for 99 minutes, one for every year of the Duke of Edinburgh's life.
Flowers have been left outside Windsor Castle, where the Duke passed away this morning. And our correspondent Dan Rivers is there. Dan, the Queen and other senior members of the royal family are in mourning there tonight.
That's right, and the flowers continue to arrive this evening, both at the Henry VIII gate behind me and on the other side of the castle at the Cambridge gate at the end of the long walk, laid by people of many different ages, of different backgrounds, nationalities and faiths, all wanting to come and mark this day and mark their thoughts for the Queen and for the Duke. This afternoon, the Palace did put out an advisory asking people not to bring flowers, asking instead that perhaps people would consider making a donation to charity and reminding people that there is an online book of condolence. But a lot of the people we spoke to felt conflicted. They knew that today, was difficult, that there was a balancing act between being socially distanced and wanting to mark the day. But many felt strongly that they did need to come here and pay their respects. And many of those people were from Windsor itself, a town, of course, closely associated with the Duke playing such a role in the restoration of the castle after the devastating fire in 1992. He was appointed chairman of the Restoration Committee. It was in that castle that he passed away, and it is fitting perhaps that he will be laid to rest inside that castle.
Dan Rivers, outside Windsor Castle, thank you. Prince Philip's life was long, eventful and hugely influential. He had a glittering naval career, saw active service during the Second World War, but he had to give that up in 1952 when his wife, then Princess Elizabeth, became Queen. He remained loyally at her side to the very end. Our correspondent John Ray looks back at a remarkable life.
He was born Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark on the island of Corfu. His mother was Princess Alice of Battenberg, which made Philip a great-great-grandchild of Queen Victoria, just like his future wife. But when he was just 18 months old, Philip and his family fled Greece after a coup. He was to find a new home and a future through the Royal Navy.
His Majesty walking down the ranks of the cadets.
At the Naval College in Dartmouth, an encounter that changed his life. At the back here, in the centre of the screen, is 18-year-old Prince Philip. He'd been asked to entertain the King's daughters during a royal visit. Elizabeth, at the time, was just 13. Afterwards, they played croquet. It was clear she had taken a shine to the tall and handsome cadet. War would interrupt any romance that followed. He was mentioned in dispatches. They exchanged letters.
It's easy to see the radiant happiness of the princess.
And the coming of peace brought the rekindling of love. King George granted permission for the couple to marry. He renounced his Greek titles and was made Duke of Edinburgh.
Now the Duke of Edinburgh takes a fatherly hand, his technique being no better and no worse than most fathers.
But life was to change again. His naval career abandoned on the death of his father-in-law and the accession to the throne of his wife.
I, Philip, will become your liege man of life and limb, for the earthly worship. In faith and truth I will bear unto you, to live and die, against all manner of folk, so help me God.
Rising, he kisses the Queen's cheek.
As ever with Philip, when duty called, he answered.
The Duke pays it back.
When he wasn't at his wife's side, he channeled his passion for sport into polo. And at the age of 50, turned his attention to carriage driving, for all its challenges, occasional dangers. The Duke took charge of the family side of what even he referred to as the firm. Never more tested than in the collapse of the marriage of his oldest son. The Duke was supportive of Princess Diana. Like her, he was once the royal outsider too. On her death, amid public anguish and anger, he shepherded his grandsons through their immense trauma, and in doing so, helped guide the institution of monarchy past its greatest challenge in modern times. And later that year, when the Queen and Duke celebrated their golden wedding anniversary, she paid him a rare public tribute.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
Royal milestones came and went. The Duke was slow to slow down, reluctant to retire, which he eventually did with a characteristic joke.
I'm sorry, Mr. Standing down. I'll stand up.
To the end, this was a partnership. To his wife, to the monarchy, Philip has fulfilled his promise. John Ray, ITV News.
And our royal editor Chris Shipp is here. Chris, very sad pictures looking at them together. The Duke had huge influence, didn't he, in this country, throughout the Commonwealth, but all of this is happening at a very difficult time of the pandemic.
Yeah, you're right. Let me just take some of those issues. Look, nothing changes constitutionally, the Queen remains the monarch. It's just that she now does so without the consort that's been at her side since 1952. As for his dukedom, the Duke of Edinburgh, that actually officially passes to his eldest son, Prince Charles, but he won't use it. It will be sort of reassumed and then given out when Prince Charles accedes to the throne. And it is Prince Edward, Prince Philip's youngest son, who will eventually become the new Duke of Edinburgh. But of course, all this is being done at a time when the pandemic has affected every aspect of national life, and so too the funeral plans for the Duke of Edinburgh himself. There were plans that had been in place for a long time that involved, this area where we're standing now, but everything is now going to happen behind the walls of the castle. We understand that he will lie in rest. He doesn't get a state funeral. He will lie in rest until the day of the funeral, but that's, the job of the Queen right now, a very difficult job, is to sign off on those plans.
All of that is the official side of things, but of course the heart of this is a marriage, a very old lady, now widowed, a very sad day for the family.
Yeah, we've had a sort of hint of that, I think, in recent years, about how she's managed to do her job since his official retirement. But don't forget, behind closed doors, she still had him there. She still had the man that's been by her side all these years. The difference now, of course, for the Queen is that she's going to have to be doing it on her own, and that would be, I think, the most significant change, a personal grief for her, and I think for the nation, a moment to stand back and reflect on a man who's been part of our national life, for 7 decades.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. Well, people right across the UK have been paying their respects to the Duke of Edinburgh today. Bells rang out at cathedrals, and a silent tribute was held at Aintree Racecourse ahead of the Grand National weekend. And the thoughts of many were with the Queen, as Rachel Younger reports.
His life spanned generations, but it was the young